Hello and welcome to Eco Africa, this time from Germany. I am Sandra Trinoblio and I'm super excited to be presenting the show side by side with my wonderful co-host right here in one of Europe's major capitals and also home to our partner broadcaster, DW.
Yes, we are delighted to be here in front of the Brandenburg Gate, one of the city's most iconic landmark, where temperature is currently at about 5 degrees Celsius. That's quite cold. On this special edition, we'll be asking how green energy can power and empower countries. So Sandra, shall we start with a quick preview of what's in store?
Good idea, Chris. And in fact, coming up.
We have green energy from hydrogen made in Namibia. And we visit a Danish island striving to become waste and emissions-free.
Our first report, however, deals with a more controversial side of energy production. The Earth may be heating up at an alarming rate, but the global thirst for oil and gas remains insatiable. And as we've observed over and over again, companies will go to great lengths to ensure the supply keeps flowing, regardless of the consequences.
Well, sadly, it's often the environment that pays the heaviest price in the long run. In Senegal, despite protests by the local fishermen and environmentalists, the government approved the construction of offshore oil fields. Our Eco reporter went to see how it is affecting the country.
Like many other fishermen on Senegal's coast, Baka Diao uses fishing line or small nets. He's been going out to sea for 30 years. These men's former fishing grounds was 10 kilometers offshore. But it's out of bounds, as an energy firm will start shipping liquefied natural gas there soon. The fishermen now fear even less catch, and of mainly small fish like sardines or cutlass fish. Here, off the Senegalese coast, there used to be an incredible number of fish. But now, to make a large catch, we'd have to take the boats to Mauritania for 3 to 4 days. But we don't have a license to fish there. If we got caught fishing there without a license, we'd be arrested. Visible on the horizon is the platform where the LNG tankers will dock, in one of the coastal areas richest in fish. Local fishermen aren't allowed within 500 meters of it, and beyond that is a restricted zone. The LNG terminal has been anchored offshore, so a British oil and gas company can ship the fuel from here. A move that has angered fishermen and environmentalists alike. The area off the coast of Senegal and Mauritania is home to large schools of fish, as well as many dolphins. It also boasts one of the world's largest cold water reefs. The production platform is located less than 1 kilometer away. The nearly 600-kilometer-long reef forms a huge marine ecosystem, rich in diverse varieties of microorganisms, algae, and fish. The government of Senegal has approved an environmental and social impact assessment commissioned by gas firm BP, but even scientists working in the affected area are very skeptical. The criticism is justified because they didn't go where they should have to get the most up-to-date information about the area. They did the study without any partners and didn't involve the relevant institutions in the two countries working on these issues. Just last year, they took part in a Norwegian study which found that the large reef extends much further into Senegal's coastal area than previously thought. We're in the process of conducting a reference study. We're going to take certain indicators and follow them as they extract gas and oil. Then we'll see what the impact is, negative, neutral, or positive. But I don't think it'll be positive. According to BP, the platform will produce some 2.5 billion tons of gas starting next year, and twice as much in the years thereafter. 5% of the gas will go to Senegal and 5% to neighboring Mauritania. Senegal's government has now commented on how seriously it takes the fishermen's concerns and how they plan to protect the marine ecosystem.
This goes in particular with supporting measures, meaning measures of reconversion, the creation of artificial reefs, notably for the sector of fishing, but also with training of the communities affected.
The Pan-African NGO Don't Gas Africa points out that the project not only harms fishermen and the environment, the countries involved don't benefit much financially either. 90% of the gas is being exported, and that's what we don't want. It can't be that all the gas produced in Senegal is exported internationally to run other countries' industries, while we fail to build industries in our country. LNG tankers are already waiting outside the port of Dakar. Global demand for gas has increased due to the war in Ukraine, but Europe has agreed to phase out fossil fuel subsidies soon. Due to serious concerns, the German government has not yet decided whether or not the gas should be imported at all. Germany has made a clear international commitment not to support fossil fuel investments with public funds. After the energy crisis and the start of the war in Ukraine, we must focus on supporting renewable energies and climate protection worldwide. I don't see how else we can achieve our climate target if we're still developing new oil and gas fields worldwide. That simply won't work. Given the threat to fishermen's livelihoods, organizations like Don't Gas Africa are calling for more investment in renewables and environmental protection. You can't cause damage to our country, an environmental catastrophe here, to benefit other countries. Meanwhile, for Baka Jao and his fellow fishermen, they look into an uncertain future. A drop in the demand for gas might cause the government to rethink its strategy. But until this could happen, Senegal's fishermen will continue to struggle.
What better place to talk about energy here in Berlin than here, known as the gasometer. It was built in 1909 and was once one of the 3 largest gas storage tanks in Europe. But it's been out of service since 1995 and it's now a historical monument.
And maybe that's how it should be, Chris, because the future belongs to green energies like hydrogen. Did you know that there is a German company making plans to produce hydrogen in Namibia and have it sent to markets here in Europe?
Yeah, it sounds like a win-win situation because as I understand it, the energy used to produce the hydrogen will come from renewable sources like solar and wind. Let's find out more.
A team from the Germany energy company Enatrag are on a research tour at Saukaib National Park in southern Namibia. They are looking for the best location to erect wind turbines as part of a €10 billion energy project.
Where we are right now has some of the world's best onshore wind. We know is really a world-class resource. 15 kilometers to the east, we have our solar sites, which is some of the world's best solar. So within a very close proximity, we have very good renewables.
Namibia has designated an area 100 kilometers long and 80 kilometers wide for the project. From 2025, some 600 wind turbines and 2 solar farms will deliver as much energy as 7 nuclear power plants. Water from the nearby ocean will be pumped here by pipeline. It will be used to produce hydrogen, which will be shipped to Germany for its energy supply. Hydrogen can be used to fuel buses and cars, power chemical plants, metal steels, or simply heat homes and businesses. Aside from Namibia, Germany also has plans for mega projects in other countries, including in autocratic ones. Altogether, it is investing in 10 different countries.
We have trade ties with autocratic states where there's no press freedom. We have to deal with that. At the same time, we will still have to solve the energy transition and climate crisis. In this context, you always have to be prepared to compromise.
Enatrag is the firm managing the largest project. Based in northeast Germany, it is a pioneer in the wind power industry. More than 1,000 wind turbines are monitored here. Enatrag was the first company to produce hydrogen using wind power. A pilot project in Uckermark region informs its work in Namibia and elsewhere.
With the scope of what we're doing here in the Uckermark, its size is very much comparable to what we're planning to create in Namibia. This area in the Uckermark is also comparable to the area in Namibia where hydrogen is set to be produced.
The Namibian town of Luderitz, many residents still support the new project.
So people are quite excited with this project that it's coming to Luderitz because they see a lot of development coming into town, they see a lot of employment coming to town, they see low-cost electricity and anything else. So I would say people doesn't have much critical views, but in the back of our heads also we hope that it's not a corruption thing. Everyone will actually benefit from the project.
Around Luderitz, thousands live in poverty. They have electricity and water, but it is expensive. The equivalent of 4 euro cents for 10 liters is often too much, like for this resident.
Here's the machine. Now we have to put this card in. We put it in. And it shows the money here. You see now it's showing only zero. Zero? Here, only zero. There's no money on the card.
We want to supply both additional electricity and water from our project to the people of Namibia. And also the town of Luderitz currently has to bring water in from a very far distance, and we can overbuild our water purification and desalination facility to provide water to the town.
Both Europe and Africa could stand to gain immensely from projects like this.
Wow, what an undertaking. It will be interesting to see how things progress. But that's just one example of future energy production. Take a look at all this. We're at the RF campus in Berlin, where over 5,000 people work, study, or do research in the fields of energy, mobility, and sustainability.
Well, it is an amazing place, especially as most people here are working towards one goal: to enable Germany to achieve the ambitious target of covering 80% of its energy need from renewables by 2030. But are such targets realistic for Africa? Well, we've come here to talk to an expert from the Mercator Research Institute on Global Commons and Climate Change, Mr. Felix Kotzik, to find out. Now, most science reports say that to really slow the climate crisis, we must turn to renewables and stop using fossil fuels. Could the example from Namibia be a viable model for the future?
Yes, I think the example of Namibia is very interesting because it deploys a lot of hydrogen, which is very, very important for European decarbonization, but it also offers the opportunity to get clean electricity and also clean water for Namibia. So I think it's a good opportunity, yes.
To what extent can such models be scaled up? Project Desertec in Northern Africa, for example, never really got off the ground. The original idea was to supply Europe with electricity generated on sun-drenched solar farms in the Sahara. Do you think the technology is there to make this possible at some point?
We will need large-scale projects, and they're viable in principle. Perhaps Desertec was 10 or 20 years too early. I think it's important to design the projects that both continents, Africa and Europe, profit from the projects. And it's also important to differentiate between countries, because countries have different needs and also potential.
Okay, it looks like it is possible to create some sort of green energy cooperation between Africa and Europe. So why are projects like the offshore oil platforms in Senegal still being implemented? Isn't that a huge step to the wrong direction?
I totally agree. It's a huge step in the wrong direction. We don't need additional gas. Like Europe must come off gas very, very quickly and instead invest into clean energy projects like that in Namibia.
Now, part of your work involves determining greenhouse emission levels in large cities. Lagos and Cairo are just two of the mega cities on the African continent. Now, what would help to get cities to turn away from climate damaging practices more quickly?
There are two important things to go forward. First, cooling is very important in housing in African cities in many countries, and it's important to have clean energy from photovoltaics and wind for housing. And transportation is also very important. And for that, it's very important to have electric buses and tramways instead of private motorized vehicles. That will make a main difference and should be the focus of transportation policies.
Now, this is perhaps the most difficult question to answer. How can we turn the tables on climate change?
It's a very difficult question indeed. There's not enough action on climate change. The good news, we have very low-cost renewables, we have a low-cost electricity and transportation, and we have a transition in heating system to heat pumps. It's happening globally. It's not happening at the right speed. We need doubling of speed to make it happen, that no extreme heat and no extreme precipitation will hit people worldwide.
I would like to hear from you. If you were to sum it up for the African audience, what is that limiting factor that is hindering them from taking up such models?
The main problem here is that financing is more difficult than for a coal or gas power plant. It's all about financing. It's economically viable, but financing is more expensive and lower interest rates are really important.
Thank you very much.
Danke.
We left Berlin and took a short road trip to the neighboring state of Brandenburg, which backs green energy with subsidies. Now, when considering how communities can be empowered with green energy, it makes a lot of sense to work with what you've got. Now, Africa, where I come from, has sun, but Europe, as you can see, has a lot of wind.
You can say that again, Sandra. But regulations in Germany make installing large wind turbines like this somewhat difficult. It can take years to get approval.
But that's not the case everywhere, Chris. In Europe, the Danish island of Bornholm wants to become, at least environmentally speaking, the greenest island on the planet. But just how close are they to achieving that goal?
Let's see.
I know it doesn't look like it right now, but this island might be the best island in Europe and even the world.
Not because of its sandy beaches or its architecture or year-round warm weather.
It's so cold.
But because it's maybe the greenest island in the world. All the energy produced here is renewable. They reuse a lot of their waste and are reviving their struggling economy by becoming more sustainable.
So how did they become the greenest island? Can they keep it up? And what can we all learn from them? The first step was to reduce waste.
The common problem with islands is that waste can pile up quickly and can be expensive to ship out. Many islands, especially those with lots of tourists like Bali, are heavily polluted with plastic and other trash and burn a lot of it on the island. Which used to be similar here too.
People already have to sort their household waste into 6 categories, and they want to up that to 12.
And the waste at the recycling yard is divided into 40 categories to make recycling easier and more efficient.
Looking beautiful.
Many businesses on Bornholm also recycle their own waste so that it doesn't even have to make its way to the recycling yard. Like this fiber, which is left over from producing rapeseed oil.
Because there's directly from the farmer, you still have a little bit waste, leaves and stuff like that, which we are taking away also. Okay. And that we are pressing into pellets, which we are heating with. It's saving money, so no need to buy oil or gas or anything.
Yeah.
In this sustainable hotel, a lot of the furniture is made of wood that would have been thrown away. Shower water is reused to flush the toilet. And to add a whimsical touch, this path is made from old glass bottles. But that doesn't mean Bornholm is completely waste-free. Some hazardous trash still gets landfilled, and about a quarter of it gets burned. The goal is to sort the waste so well that nothing has to be burned, at the latest by 2032. That's when this plant will have to shut down because it will be too old.
The second step was to start producing their own energy and become less dependent on electricity from elsewhere.
Islands especially are often dependent on the mainland or even other countries providing them with energy, which can become expensive. Up until a few decades ago, Bornholm's energy came from almost 100% fossil fuels, but not anymore.
We have solar panels or photovoltaics. We have a biogas system on Bornholm, and of course also wind turbines onshore.
Some of the solar panels were developed especially for Bornholm, like these window pane ones. Many businesses send their organic waste to a biogas facility where it's turned into energy. Most of the remaining electricity and some of the heat on Bornholm is produced by burning wood chips. Although wood is renewable, burning it is one of the dirtiest ways of producing energy. It emits a lot of CO2. That's why Bornholm is planning to use less of it. Another hitch was the same problem a lot of other places have.
People are very, very fond of where they live. I think we all are. And of course, there's a discussion always. When you put up wind turbines, you can really see them.
Many islanders were against windmills in their backyard.
Therefore, our local politicians actually said, well, our strategy is not to put up more wind turbines on shore, we will put it offshore.
Oh, there certainly is enough wind for wind power.
Bornholm's harbour is already full of offshore wind turbines, which are going to be installed a few kilometres off the coast. And on top of that, they face a well-known problem. What to do when the wind stops blowing and the sun stops shining. The energy produced in peak times needs to be stored for when none is generated.
We're going to build up a massive energy storage capacity here on molten salt.
What is molten salt?
Basically, it's salt that we will melt on putting in electricity, surplus electricity from the wind turbines when they're arriving. And then when we need energy, then we just put water into that and create steam, and then we produce heat and power. So therefore, we can contain a lot of energy for a long period of time, actually.
There are around 20 charging stations scattered across Bornholm, which is not a lot. Electric cars are still more expensive than gasoline ones, meaning it's a hard switch to make if you're not the richest of regions. Once more of them are on the streets though, Bornholm plans to use the car batteries to also store some excess energy, which is already happening on a test basis with these electric cars that are owned by the island's municipality.
Another big problem is this ferry, because it runs on marine diesel and is very dirty.
There's some discussion about hydrogen or electric engines which are cleaner, but it's still very early days. Change can be slower than wanted, especially if you can't just throw money at a problem.
I strongly believe that all people want to do the right thing and the most green thing, but they have to be able to afford it also at the same time.
That's why a lot of the efforts here are co-funded by EU or governmental programs, or are set up as experiments that companies collaborate on and invest money into.
So of course, all of these efforts don't mean the entire island is super green and super eco-friendly. Politics, stalling technologies and missing funds can get in the way and delay progress. But there are still a lot of things we can learn from this tiny island experimenting away on the Baltic Sea. You can't just copy what was done here and paste it anywhere, but you can copy the core idea, which is make sustainability the easiest, most logical and cheapest way of doing things.
And where this isn't the case yet, we need incentives, like ramping up taxes on fossil fuels, subsidizing electric transport, or investing in experimental projects like this one.
Well, it's true what they say, time flies when you're having fun. Take a look at the view. We're standing on the rooftop at the DWE political office, and you can see the whole city from up here. I've really enjoyed this opportunity to meet and spend time with our production partners in person. Thanks for the invitation. Next week, I'll be back presenting the show from somewhat warmer region, Nigeria, and hopefully we should be back here for summer shoot. What do you think?
I think it is a brilliant idea, Chris, and many thanks from me too. It was indeed a pleasure to be here in Berlin. I especially liked the wind turbines in the German countryside. Very impressive to look at. And to all of you, our viewers, thank you for watching. Don't forget to post all your questions or comments on our social media platforms. See you next time when I'll be back in Kampala, Uganda.
Oh, okay. Can you see?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Can we go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Let's go.